Do you know the relationship between the flag of Israel and the Star of Bethlehem? Occupying Till He Comes at Southwest Prophecy Ministries. Welcome, friends. This is David Schnitker, President of Southwest Prophecy Ministries. Thanks for listening. Today we begin a series of interviews with Paul Dinger, author of our December 2018 Last Days Beacon article entitled Christmas Stars, America, and Israel. This podcast will be airing, of course, on Christmas Eve. It's a very timely article. The article is subtitled, No Other Nation is as Intimately Connected with Israel like America. America's largest holy day season at year's end remembers the big star in Israel's dark night. So this is an ambitious article. It is 8 pages in length. And on today's program and next week's program, we plan to deal with several of the issues contained in the article. Well, Paul is a serious student of American history as well as a serious student of the Bible. And he has written several insightful articles for Southwest Prophecy Ministries over our brief 3+ years of existence. Paul is also the founding editor of the Boston Review of the Arts. Well, Paul, welcome to the program today.
Thank you, David. It is nice to be here with you.
Well, it's great to have you back. This is the third in a series of very insightful articles that has to do with America in Bible prophecy, very controversial subject, and one that I have learned a lot from as we have interacted regarding these issues. Well, of course, the December article is very timely as it relates to the Christmas story, and so many issues that relate to that and that are very relevant in our day in 2018. So let's begin at the beginning, as they say. And Paul, if you would tell us about the concept of the star in the Old Testament. What are the big occurrences of that star in the Old Testament?
Well, on Christmas Eve, Christians will be in church and they will hear the prophecy of Isaiah about the star announcing the birth of the Messiah, the virgin birth of the Messiah. But when we read the Bible from the very beginning, we get in 14 verses of chapter 1 of Genesis, and we see that God says that the stars will be as signs. Now, modern translators have taken away the "and" that is in there, so it looks like he's saying signs of seasons, but it's actually signs and of seasons. And so God is prophesying there, at the very beginning of the Bible, that stars will be signs of important people and events. And as we go through the Bible, we get, 14 chapters later, in Genesis chapter 15, God tells Abraham that stars will be signs of elect people. They will be the signs of the descendants of Abraham, the father of faith. When we go a little farther into the Old Testament, I believe it's Numbers, the false prophet Balaam prophesies by God, and it is a true prophecy for a change, that a star will symbolize the big king of Israel, which he's prophesying King David, but by extension, he's prophesying the son of David, Jesus the Messiah. And then we get to Isaiah, I believe it's Isaiah 7, where Isaiah prophesies to King Ahaz that the sign of the Messiah will be a virgin with child. And it doesn't make any sense. Usually pregnant woman, it is a sign that she's not a virgin. But here, if you read the text closely, you see that the same word that's being used there for sign is the same word that's used in Genesis 1:14, where God says that stars will be a sign. So what Isaiah is really saying is that a star, an extraordinary star, will be the sign of the Messiah who will be born of a virgin. And then, of course, the greatest example of the star as a sign is the Star of Bethlehem.
Yes, and you make the connection in your article, which I want to develop next, between the Star of Bethlehem and the Stars and Stripes of America's flag. So how is the Star of Bethlehem, of course prophesied in the Old Testament, fulfilled in the New? Is this star, this prophesied star, and the Stars and Stripes related to each other?
Well, the Star of Bethlehem, of course, is the sign of the birth of the Messiah. And at the time that the first Stars and Stripes was raised, there was a great deal of talk about what the symbolism of America should be on its banner. And when the Star Circle new constellation, which is what the original Stars and Stripes was called, a new constellation, when that was presented, there were more than a few American leaders who compared the Star of Bethlehem, which announced the birth of Jesus, to the Star Circle, the new constellation on the American flag, because the America was the Christ's kingdom. And for anyone who wants to see that explained in detail, they can look at the November Last Days Beacon. So the Star of Bethlehem announced the birth of the Messiah. The new constellation star of the American flag announced the birth of the Messiah's kingdom, of Christ's kingdom. And I know that Americans are completely unaware of this, but if they want an explanation, November Last Days Beacon.
As I recall from that November article, the use of stars in national flags was not common at the time of America's flag being created. Is that a correct recollection?
Absolutely. It was the American flag. Flag experts tell us was the first star flag of a national flag in history. And the founders chose the symbol of a star from their understanding of Genesis 1:14. In other words, they were saying that this is and they were presenting the American flag not just to Americans, but to the world as this is something very important. This is the sign of a very important nation.
And subsequent to the creation of the American flag, as we've discussed in previous podcasts, stars have become relatively common in the national flags of other countries subsequent to the constellation flag.
Right, David. I did a survey of the flags of the world, something like 196, I think, and half of them borrowed imagery from the American flag. So you have, for example, the flag of North Korea. The flag of North Korea is a star and stripes, red, white, and blue. The flag of Cuba, star and stripes, red, white, and blue. And this is not, a coincidence, but here you have two countries that hate America, that have threatened America with nuclear weapons, who have the same imagery on their flags as the American flag, and it's not an accident. They clearly they borrowed the imagery because of the gravitas of America.
Well, as you have so aptly referred to the United States in previous articles, America is history's great nation. And so we've seen that even in the design of the flag, America is the trendsetter for other countries.
Absolutely.
That is an amazing thing. Well, let me move on to another question. Let's transition to Israel's flag, of course, created in 1948, the Star of David or Shield of David. What is the significance of Israel's flag having 4 of the 5 symbols of the American flag?
Well, Israel, like the 50% of the nation flags of the world, borrowed its imagery from the American flag. In other words, America's flag is stars and stripes, red, white, and blue. Israel's flag is star and stripes, white and blue. So they have 4 of the 5 symbols on America's flag, and clearly, and this is not a coincidence, they borrowed it. But what I find fascinating is that America first borrowed the symbol of Judaism, of the Star of David, in 1782 for the Great Seal, the national insignia of the United States. So if you look in your dollar bill, and you look at the Great Seal, the Iron Pyramid is not the Great Seal. To the right is what the America's national insignia is, with the eagle and the stars. So above the eagle's head are stars. But if you connect the stars as you connect stars to get a constellation picture, you have the Mogen David, the Star of David, the Shield of David, the so-called Jewish star. So America first borrowed imagery from Judaism for its national insignia, and then something like 166 years later, Israel borrowed for its national banner imagery from the American flag.
So we have, of course, even in these national symbols, pictured the close and intimate connection between the United States and Israel. And we're going to develop that more next time. And I think that's a good stopping point for today. Paul, thank you for joining me for today's show. Friends, today we are going to be offering an excellent article to accompany today's discussion. Our December Last Days Beacon article is entitled Christmas Stars, America and Israel. You may order 5 copies for $5 or $25 for a 25 copies for a $15 contribution. To order, just go to our website, www.swpm.us. Type in the title of the article, Christmas Stars, America and Israel. The website again is www.swpm.us. Please join us again for next week's Last Days Beacon program, brought to you by Southwest Prophecy Ministries. Until then, this is David Schnitker. Thanks for listening.